All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marquita Hall. I'm NACD's Southeast Region representative, and I will facilitate this 1 hour NACD Urban and Community Conservation webinar. Thank you for joining us to learn more about local food systems in South Carolina. We will record this webinar and post it on NACD's website. Please share widely with your networks and anyone who may be interested in seeing this or previous presentations. Please keep yourself muted during the duration. After the presentation, we will have a Q&A session. Please type your question in the chat and I will read it for the recording. We'll address as many as we can. So today we have Food Forests in South Carolina with Nick Karls, Amanda Karls, and Beth Button. I have their brief bios here. I'm excited to tell you more about them. So Amanda Karls serves as Director of Institutional Effectiveness and Compliance at the University of South Carolina Upstate. She is a passionate advocate for sustainability throughout higher education institutions. Current sustainability initiatives include the Food Forest, Bee Campus USA, Plastic Film Recycling, Campus Race to Zero Waste, Free Food Alert, Plastic Awareness and Reduction Team, or PART, and Internal Sustainability Certifications. We also have Nick Karls, who serves on the Landscape Services team at the University of South Carolina Upstate. He is responsible for multiple pollinator habitats, land restoration and conservation, and environmental stewardship. Nick earned his BA in Environmental Studies, Land Management and Conservation, and minor in Urban Ecology from the University of Utah. He also holds a degree in Recreation Management from Madison College in Wisconsin. Nick implemented the Food Forest and is actively involved in campus and community sustainability initiatives, including Bee Campus USA and Tree Campus USA. Beth Button serves as the coordinator for Spartanburg County Soil and Water Conservation District and is co-director of the Watershed Ecology Center at USC Upstate. She became interested in the natural world at a young age, spending summers at a cabin on Susquehanna River. After graduating from college, she went into environmental education and remains there today. She is best known for her federally licensed, non-releasable educational ambassador, Opossum, whose name is Opal, and I had a chance to meet who's great. So take it away, Amanda.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We are excited to talk about our food forest. We began our project in September of 2024, just a few weeks before Hurricane Helene came through our area. So it's been a journey for us. So we're really excited to talk about where we are today, but just keep in mind that this is a newer project. So there's a lot of growth to occur in the coming months and years ahead as well. So this is the entry to our food forest, very welcoming for our community, and we are excited to share it with you as well. So many of you are probably familiar with food forest and the design, but maybe not the technical concept of food forest. So forest gardening, it's a low maintenance way to structure your plant habitats so that it mimics that of a forest, but everything within it is edible. So incorporating fruit and nuts and vegetables and vines, all of which have a purpose for humans and sometimes our forest friends, the critters as well. So this is an example of the layers of a food forest and how it mimics the 7 layers of a traditional forest. Sometimes there's an additional layer that's aquatic or wetland as well. We just don't have that in our area at this time, but that is an optional layer as well. So an example of what that might be would be like the tallest layer being our nut trees, the second layer being our fruit trees. Then we have our vine layer that is growing amongst those taller trees, such as grapes. We have our shrub layer, which is our brambles, our blueberries. herbs, which would be our rosemary, our lavender, things like that, ground cover layer, and then our root layer as well, turnips, carrots, parsnips. So those are some examples of what a food forest is. Where did we start? Luckily, Google has an image for us, our bare ground here. This is about 2.5, 3 acres, and it was all grass, as you can see, and Nick was cutting this grass on a weekly basis, spending a few hours each week to maintain it, which is not enjoyable and not beneficial to native habitats and the ecosystem. So this was our vision to reinvent what this space could be. In front of this is our health services building on campus. So students that are driving past this area to enter campus or attending an appointment with health services, we're seeing this space. And this is at the entry of a very busy entrance on campus as well. So it's very visible to the community. And so it was a good spot to make this vision happen. So this is the aerial view of this space. The health services building is like a ranch style house there. And then we have the 2.5, 3 acres as well to the left of the screen, hopefully for you as well. You can see the primary entryways into our campus. And so Nick took that blank slate and put it all out on a whiteboard and his vision for what that space would look like. So that was the very first rendering of a blueprint for what the food forest layout could look like. The trails, different raised garden beds, the perennials, the tree lines, starting with those to make sure that we were reducing any impacts from wind and things like that. So this was the first way that we got started. We also wanted to connect the different types of gardening that our community members might already be familiar with in this habitat. So people might be used to purchasing annuals. So talking about the importance of perennials and native plants and pollinator plants. And so transitioning that flower gardening into an educational space and talking about pollinator habitats and the various needs for our pollinators, having water out there for pollinators or nesting spots, things like that. We wanted to incorporate sensory gardening to engage community members in utilizing their senses as they explore the natural world. So we have some signs for that will be on a future slide. People are familiar with vegetable gardening, so we wanted to explore the different ways that you can do vegetable gardening, whether it's square plots and testing that method, testing new plants and new varieties as well. So being a little bit of an experimental space in the world of vegetable gardening. Herbs as well, and trying to have those be a long-lasting item that people can select and utilize throughout the year. Container gardening, so making sure that everyone in the community felt involved, even if you didn't have a backyard or a space for a large garden. How you can select varieties that you can put in 12-inch pots and shade and things like that. We have a lot of U-pick and orchards in our area. So we wanted to go beyond some of the varieties that are already available to our community and experiment with crossbreeding and different things like that, where it might be more specialized than what you would find at the peach orchards that are around us in upstate South Carolina. So those were our inspirations and wanting to be a little bit different from what people already had and expanding the knowledge that they may have as well. So some insight into how you might want to plan your garden if you want to implement something like this is choosing things that the community or the people that will be utilizing this are going to want to pick and want to use. So making sure that you're selecting varieties and plants that will really entice people to participate in the project. Choosing varieties that grow in your area and region or zone, or if you're experimenting at least close to your zone. We all kind of walk that border of like what is in our zone. Unfortunately in the upstate, we don't have bananas and pineapples and coconut trees, even though a lot of our youth that come out there, like, that's what they want to see. So explaining what a zone is and the importance of having things that will thrive in the area. And then deciding on sizes. So we chose to do a lot of dwarf fruit trees and bush varieties of a lot of the plants and the things that they produce because that would allow us to have space for more variety. But of course, you can do the full size as well. It just depends on the space that you are working with. But it was really great to see the number of dwarf and bush varieties that are available on the market now for the plants that we could select from and really maximize our space. So this was AI's version of planning our garden. So if you put in a zone and you put in a food forest and the types of things you want, this is an AI generated map of all the different things that you could plant in a food forest. And we did this a few times to see different versions of what would be suggested. And it was really cool to see different layouts and plants that were selected and expanding our mindset of what we could plant and what we could do with this space as a framework. Definitely didn't just do this plan, but it was interesting to see the capabilities of AI in planning gardens. So where we started was with purchasing the very basic gardening tools. Literally our first purchase was some shovels, some watering cans, some pruning shears and gloves because we had a group of students who was ready to come and help us and start planting and moving mulch and soil and dirt right away. So these were our first purchases and they got us through a couple months before we really started diving into the bigger needs of the project. So it was a really great way to see that like low cost, low investment upfront really made a huge impact in starting this project strong. So it was really easy to implement very quickly, which was nice and what we needed after the hurricane occurred. So these were our first days out there. So we have students putting together some raised garden beds. We had students create some flyers for us. One was Food Forest in Progress, so people would know what was going on in this space as they drove by. We started with vermiculture right away, so we had a student group design a vermiculture sign and then students putting in the baskets for the worms, starting with some raised beds in those initial plants, and then ID tags for all of the plants as well, and assembling those. So this was the first 2 months of the project and getting all that set up right away. We also wanted to make sure that we had different learning opportunities out there for all of our community members. So we have a little library out there, a lending library, where we have everything from youth stories and books about growing sweet potatoes in the form of a kid story to growing sweet potatoes as an actual reference resource book for adults. So we have almanacs of plants and flowers and how to grow a certain fruit in the southeast of the United States. And then we have a lot of kid books about nature and connecting to vegetables and gardens and things like that. And then we have a seed library as well. And that is where people can get their little packets of seeds to take home and try the varieties in their backyard or on their patio that we have planted in our raised garden beds in the food forest, so they can try them at home. And so this is where Beth was a great resource for us with the Spartanburg Soil and Water Conservation District. She was able to secure donations of seeds and we could then repackage those into smaller packets for that seed library. So we have an example here of seed packing instructions. So it was a small box that traveled around campus to different groups who had some free time to downsize the larger seed packets that were donated into smaller seed packets. So they got seed packing instructions about how to do the downsizing. there was a label that they would fill out from the original seed packet, and they would stick that adhesive to the envelope to seal it. And then there's also a stamp that went on the front of the small seed envelope that was either soil health matters and how this seed was improving the soil, or it could be, we had 3 different stamps. It could be that it was a companion plant, so it might get the companion plant stamp, or it could be a different stamp on there as well. So depending on what the seed was, is the stamp that it got. But most of them were the soil health and companion planting. Another thing to consider with intergenerational learning was different types of signs for the community members. So we have some signs out there that are a little more dense in information, and have a higher level of reading or expectation and knowledge about the subject already. So you see that our butterfly identification is very text heavy. And then we have the temporary signs, because we still haven't received the permanent ones yet, of the sensory garden that are a little bit more of the elementary student level, about touching plants and feeling their different textures, or smelling them, smelling the chocolate daisy, and does it smell like chocolate, and things like that. So those are a little more generic. And then for our college students or our tech savvy community members who want to be outside, we put in solar tables, and you can plug in laptops and charge your cell phones. And the two picnic tables also have umbrellas that have solar panels sewed onto them. So we have a solar habitat out there for those who want to be outside and use technology, or if they're not using the technology, enjoy some shade out in the food forest. So just bridging the gap for everyone and inviting them into that space, and making sure that we have different styles and modes of learning available to us out in that space, that doesn't have your typical electricity available to plug in and do a presentation, things like that. So making sure we have that availability for teaching. So I'm going to hand it over to Nick to talk about the soil, because he was very instrumental in making that happen.
Yeah, so in preparing the soil, soil is expensive to purchase up front. So we have a secret stash of leaf mulch down in our woods that I've been taking care of for the past 2 years. So luckily, every fall we have to collect leaves on campus, and usually they just got wasted down in the woods until I started here. And I was able to get most of that soil to get most of our raised beds filled up with that. And then we also use the hugelkultur method, which you can see there is kind of like the lasagna layer, if you will. We fill our bottom with cardboard or some sort of solid material to kind of suppress those weeds or grasses that want to try to come back up through. We put in our logs and bigger hardwood material that we collected that had fallen out of trees that were already established there. We put in our plant waste, vegetable clippings, whatever, as our next layer. And then we put in that compost layer of soil in there to give it some more nutrients. And then our last 30% of it is that organic soil that we were talking about as that top layer. So the idea behind the hugelkultur is that as things decompress and break down, it'll always be providing more and more nutrients back to the top. And then once it reaches a certain point, you can kind of start those layers over, maybe just on a smaller scale, so that you're always having some sort of nutrient balance back in there for that plant material. So in this bed on the top left corner is that is all of our leaf compost in that one. That's one of our herb gardens that I designed. It's thriving, doing great, better than any soil that I've seen. So it's definitely providing nutrients just by using that leaf compost. Down on the bottom left hand corner is our layers where we could get more of that depth in there in our Vigo gardens. So we wanted to stick our plants that needed that bigger root base down in there, our tomatoes and peppers and our loofah plants. And then for the nitrogen fixing plants, we made sure we put in clover, alder, comfrey, and some goji berries those are just typically some of the few nitrogen fixing plants that we have tried to establish out there, and there's many, many more that we will be implementing down the road too.
I just want to point out in this picture as well, those are telephone posts or
Yeah, they're power poles,
Yep.
big poles that were they used to be part of our ropes course that we had on campus. They were taken down 7, 8 years ago, I want to say. And I found them while I was cutting grass around campus, just kind of stashed in the woods along the edge, wherever they could find a spot for them. And so I just cut them into smaller sections where I could move them, and then just use them as a raised bed. Um,
so just
yeah,
encouraging creativity.
reusing stuff, saving money so you can spend it somewhere else. And they're great. They're solid, and I think they'll last longer than any wood that I went out and purchased. So
So then the next thing was choosing the right plants, like we talked about, choosing plants that thrived in South Carolina's humid climate and are heat tolerant, moisture resilient, those types of plants, because we do have some drought spells that have been occurring throughout summers in these past few years. So making sure that we had those plant species that could hang on. We've prioritized our native and perennial plants as well, speaking to the importance of our pollinators and making sure that we are educating our community on the importance of biodiversity and the importance of perennials to help reduce the overall maintenance of the landscape. And then layered diversity as well. So having all those different layers of a food forest to enhance the ecological balance and ensuring that we have that year-round food production. So our blueberry plants, for example, we have like 8 different varieties that are producing at different months throughout the summer. So we have berries May to August instead of all of the varieties only in May. It does mean less of a item at that time, but you get length in the production of those species. So our plant selection, so you can kind of see a breakdown of where we put a lot into, is pollinator plants are huge because we want to make sure that the things we are planting out there are being pollinated, and we are supporting that. As it was mentioned, we are a bee campus, so it is one of our goals of our campus community to improve our pollinator habitats. So we do have a lot of pollinator plants out there, but then we have 91 different shrubs out there. We have 70 trees, and this is overall numbers, not species. So 70 different trees planted out there, 17 vines, so our kiwis and things like that. And then we have our bramble and our ground cover and our grasses as well. So you can kind of see the breakdown of where we prioritized within the layers of our plant selections. So the food forest does have maintenance and ongoing maintenance to make sure that it is thriving. So we were just talking before this, the amount of pest activity that we are currently seeing. So making sure that you have the time and the ability to check on what the pests are enjoying and ways to remove them. Checking the soil conditions regularly through soil testing. We've done pollinator counts as well out in the food forest, and we'll be contributing to some of those census coming up. We are adjusting pruning and harvesting and planting schedules as we are learning more about our plants out there and what they need. And so just being ready to invest that time into regular monitoring. Community engagement is also something we consider as like an ongoing maintenance, is you have to keep engaging groups, keep reminding them that you are there and you're available as a resource, and hopefully they come out and do some of the harvesting as well, so they can enjoy what is being produced. We did some planting parties to get it started, is what we call them, planting parties, and we invited the community and people on campus to come do the planting with hopes that they would feel an investment and check in on those plants, and then harvest from them in the end. And then making sure that you have a good plan for your integrated pest and pollinator management, using companion planting as much as possible, which is why we have a lot of perennial pollinator plants out there, trying to avoid chemical pesticides, which is removing some of those pests by hand, and doing a lot of that by hand. And then just trying to have an ecological balance and making sure that you can use some beneficial insects out there as well. So that is some of our ongoing projects at this point, now that things are planted. And then making sure to keep the community interested, that we have different plants that are producing throughout the seasons. Luckily in South Carolina, we're able to have some mild winters, and have different planting windows for when we can have carrots. I feel like carrots are like year round for us at this point. So that keeps people interested and engaged. And then planting our beans at different stages, our peas, both in the spring and in the fall. So making sure that we are staying up to date with informing people about what's available out there, but always having something available to be harvested, so they don't forget about the resource out there. It also helps with the school year demands, and having those planting parties. We are able to have those in the fall when the students are back on campus and people are more engaged, and have them in the spring as well. So there's always a project happening at the food forest. There's always opportunities for planting or pollinator counts, or any sort of project that an instructor or a community organization might want to do out there. We're pretty much able to accommodate it throughout the seasons. So some of the challenges you might be thinking of are probably challenges that we have thought of as well. So funding for a project like this, there's a lot of great grants that are available to start projects related to urban gardens, pollinator habitats, healthy communities even, because we are creating a sense of knowing where your food comes from, how you can harvest it, what kind of recipes you can create with the produce that you are harvesting. So it all ties into healthy living as well. So there's a lot of opportunities for funding in different pathways, and you can be creative about that. Partnerships is another great way for funding. Collaborating with schools or nonprofits or churches who are engaging in similar discussions and topics, and working with them to share resources. So you can pool your time and energy and effort into a project that can make a big impact in the community. And then community awareness. Some organizations might do plant sales from the things that they're able to get from the garden, or we could sell the produce, which we aren't doing. We're donating it all, but that could be an opportunity as well. Workshops, garden tours, things like that can just increase the visibility and awareness, and lead for potential funding down the road as well. So there's exciting opportunities. So those are three areas for solutions for funding. Other challenges that we have encountered would be the weed pressure. Weeds thrive in the conditions that we have out there. So we are doing our best to implement more mulching and ground covers, and the succession planting is crucial to that as well, to suppress the weeds. And then biological controls to cut down on the pest activity out there. Water management as well. So we don't have irrigation out there. So making sure that we're utilizing different landscape designs to capture and distribute water. We have rain barrels that we brought from the Watershed Ecology Center, and we have those out there collecting rain for us. But this also comes down to the plant selection as well, and choosing the right plants and species to optimize the water usage. And then harvesting is finding enough people who want to come out and harvest. We have an overabundance of tomatoes at the moment. We're like, who's going to eat all these tomatoes? So just figuring out how to get a listserv or groups together that are willing to come out and do the harvesting, because when it is ready. So making sure we aren't wasting anything that we've grown and put all the time and energy into. Food hubs are a great way as well. So we have in the Spartanburg community, we have fresh stops at 2 of the community centers. So we're able to take the produce to those refrigerator fresh stop units, but the harvesting still has to happen and that takes time. So we're trying to figure out a good balance of signing up and getting organizations out here to do some of the harvesting so that they can benefit from what is being grown. So these are pictures from last month. Um, you can see that we have some honeyberries up there. I use that as an example. People are excited about honeyberries in our area because it's a newer trend. And so we have the trellis up there for those. In the middle is our pollinator plant, and we have a bee cup there that has water in it with a little sponge. So bees have a water source. We have a shade garden and a sign about the importance of pollinators down in the shade garden. Kiwis growing. People are always fascinated that you can grow kiwis here, and you can. And then our pollinator bench area for people to sit and enjoy and look. It looks out over the garden. And then the front of health services, the building there, we are working on making that pollinator friendly as well. So we're moving additional grass and doing plantings in that area as well. So the bench is from Trex, which is a organization, you might know of them for their flooring, things like that. So we collect plastic film on campus, which was one of the things I was mentioned earlier. So we've collected over 4,000 pounds of plastic film in the past 2 years, which is crazy, but our community really rallied around this project. And so they drop off plastic film on campus and we weigh it. And with every 1,000 pounds, we get a bench from Trex. It's a great way to get people to realize how much plastic they may be using and to reduce that and get a bench out of it. So I encourage you to look into that program as well. It's Trex and a great thing to start in your hometown. So this is the updated plot, I guess, and our blueprint, a little more digital than that original dry erase board. So that is our trail maps out there, and it's tiny on the screen. But our vegetable beds are alphabet A through W, and you can see what is in each of the raised beds. And then our perennials and other bushes are, I think, 1 through 26 out there for beds, and they're all numbered as well, but they all have ID tags on the perennial and more permanent things. So we get a lot of questions otherwise about, well, what is this and what is this? So identification is a huge tool in helping you reduce the amount of questions that you get. And then a harvesting guide, what is ready, what to look for when it is ready, so they're not harvesting things at the wrong times. So we have that guide developed as well. And we are working on a website for 3 recipes for each of the things out there so people can experiment and try new things. We designed a sticker. Our community loves stickers on their water bottles. So that is our food forest sticker. It mimics a sign that you saw at the beginning of the presentation. So just making that association with the welcome to the food forest as you truly enter it and the sticker that they get. But I have a lot of resources available. Check out the QR code and the link there. And if there's other things that any of us can do to help you start a food forest in your area, we would love to help you start your journey and walk you through anything that you may need. So that is our presentation side of it, and we are available for questions.
Oh, thanks so much. That was an amazing presentation. Beautiful slides, as mentioned in the chat. We're going to open the floor for any questions that anyone may have. Let's see. In the chat, we have beautiful, beautiful slides. You're so happy. I definitely agree. You guys did an amazing job. I did have a question. How do you manage wildlife, or is it a problem?
There's a small amount of wildlife. There is a woods that goes along our creek nearby just across the road. And up until a couple weeks ago, we didn't have any issue with the 3 deer that are on campus. But they have found my strawberries and my carrot tops. So our next step is going to be to enclose some of the vegetable area, but I don't want to close everything off because it is a food forest and it is meant for both human and animal consumption. So I'm going to give them some of the stuff that people don't prefer to have and maybe have them graze on that while we're still saving some stuff for the community members.
Oh, wow, great. Okay, so we have a question from Andrew. I see your hand raised.
Hey, thanks for taking my question. And thanks for the presentation. This was awesome to get to learn about this project. I have been pretty plugged in with Beacon Food Forest here in Seattle area. I live at a farm education center north of the city, but I do some work with those folks. And one of the biggest challenges has been unique crops that no one's ever heard of. They have no idea what it, like they see it, they don't know it, and they don't know how to harvest and process it. So the recipes, I love the recipe idea. I think that's brilliant. And I'm curious, what have been some of the most popular recipes?
We don't have tracking on that, like clicks or links like that. It was a honors class in the spring semester. Their project was to, they were given the list of all the things that were at the food forest, and they worked in groups to find 3 recipes for each of the items out there. So it was a student project. And we don't have any like tracking on popularity of recipes. But the things that we are planting out there, we have a very diverse culture as well in Spartanburg County. So we want to make sure that we are planting things that they might find in their home country and things like that. So they might have recipes already, and we're just able to plant it within our garden plots as well. But that is a good idea to put some more tracking on the website links to know which ones are popular. Our daikon radishes, I think that's how you say it, have gotten the most questions of what am I supposed to do with this? So we might have to improve our messaging around those because we have an abundance of them. Yes. So pickling them or roasting them. So we have those out there, but we still get the questions of, are you sure that's what I'm supposed to do with this? So very similar, I think, to what you're experiencing as well.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question. And did you say the recipes are available online somewhere?
They are, and I can put them in the resource as well. I will add them to that folder for that in that link. Yep.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question in chat. It asks, what vine layer crops have you successfully incorporated into the food forest?
I think it means ground cover.
Did she say vine layer?
Vine or ground cover?
Right,
Or
vine, so the vine layer.
the vine layer.
Mhm.
We have 2 different varieties of kiwis right now. We have goji berry. We have our brambles, which are blackberries or raspberries. Some of those could be considered vine if you trellis them just right.
Grapes.
Honeyberries. I do have grapes, 2 different varieties of grapes growing out there. People in Spartanburg prefer their muscadines, so I've gotten a lot of pushback on why are you trying to grow grapes here instead of muscadines, and I said I don't prefer muscadines and I want to be unique and try something else. So been a lot of pushback on that, but I will keep pushing forward on having purple grapes grow here. I think there's a few plants out there like clematises and that type of stuff too that is also more of your vine type of plant.
Oh, and the squashes and stuff that you got.
The squashes, all those. There's a picture earlier with the trellises out there. We have our beans and our squash and cucumbers and everything like that growing on there. So it's really great to try to get them up off the ground, and it makes it a lot easier to pick them and find them too when you climb up underneath them instead of having to dig for them in the ground.
Okay, great. So we don't have any more questions in the chat. Before we let you go, I guess, final call. All right. Thanks again, Amanda and Nick and Beth. It's a pleasure to hear about the food forest in USC Upstate. Amazing slides, and we look forward to hearing more from you all. So thanks again.
Thank
Thank
you.
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 All right. Have a great day.